Get ready for an emotional journey that will restore your faith in humanity. This is the true story of Marcus Williams, a 42-year-old single father working the night shift as a janitor at Sterling Tower, Manhattan's most prestigious office building. At 3 a.m., while the wealthy executives sleep in their penthouses, Marcus pushes his cleaning cart through silent hallways, scrubbing toilets and emptying trash. But Marcus isn't just a janitor. He's a father working 2 jobs, sleeping only 4 hours a night, sacrificing everything for his 13-year-old daughter Maya. For 7 years, since his wife Rachel died in a tragic car accident, Marcus has been both mother and father, provider and protector. Tonight, his integrity would be tested in ways he never imagined. Tonight, one decision would change everything. This is a story about resilience, about courage, and about what happens when doing the right thing seems like the hardest thing in the world. Marcus's life was a relentless cycle of work and more work. Night shift janitor from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. at Sterling Tower. Then, after just 2 hours of sleep, warehouse worker from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., loading and unloading trucks in the summer heat and winter cold. 18 hours a day, 6 days a week for 7 long years. Why? Because his daughter Maya deserved better than the poverty that surrounded them. School lunch fees were overdue. The electricity bill threatened disconnection every month. Maya's winter coat from last year was too small, but new ones cost money Marcus didn't have. Yet Maya never complained. She was a straight-A student, mature beyond her 13 years, understanding without words that life was hard and money was scarce. Every sacrifice Marcus made, he made for her. Every extra shift, every missed meal, every moment of exhaustion, all for Maya. She was his reason to keep going when his body screamed to stop. She was his purpose, his hope, his everything. It was 3:22 a.m. when Marcus entered the executive conference room on the 48th floor. As he polished the glass door, something caught his eye, a leather portfolio forgotten on the massive mahogany table. Marcus knew the rules. Never touch personal items. Report anything left behind to security. But as he moved closer, the portfolio fell open, revealing its contents. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. Inside were stacks of cash, bundled hundreds, more money than Marcus had seen in his entire life. Later, he would learn it was exactly $50,000. 4:47 seconds. He would remember that number forever. Marcus stood frozen, staring at the money. His mind began calculating against his will. 2 years of Maya's college fund, 3 years of rent paid in full, every overdue bill cleared, a real winter coat, groceries without checking prices, the school field trip to Washington, D.C. that Maya pretended she didn't want because she knew they couldn't afford it. $50,000. It could change everything. No one would know. The cameras didn't show inside the portfolio. He could just take it. His hands trembled as he reached toward the money. But then, in that moment of overwhelming temptation, Marcus thought about his father. His father, who had also been a janitor, who had raised Marcus on one fundamental principle. Your integrity is the only thing in this world that's truly yours. Once you sell it, you can never buy it back. Marcus thought about Maya, doing homework by flashlight when the electricity got cut off. He thought about her eating peanut butter sandwiches 4 nights a week. He thought about the look on her face when she pretended she didn't want things because she knew they couldn't afford them. And then he thought about looking Maya in the eyes if he took this money. Could he face her, knowing he'd become a thief? Could he teach her about honesty and integrity while living a lie? The answer came swift and certain. No, he couldn't. With shaking hands, not from temptation now, but from the weight of his choice, Marcus closed the portfolio, stepped back, and pulled out his radio. This is Marcus Williams on 48. Someone left a portfolio with important documents and other contents in the executive conference room. I'm securing it now and will bring it to the security desk. He had made his choice. He had chosen integrity over survival, principle over desperation, his soul over his circumstances. He had done the right thing. In exactly 60 seconds, he would come to regret it. Marcus carefully placed the portfolio in his cart, covered it with a cleaning cloth, and headed to the elevator. His heart was still pounding, not from temptation, but from relief. He had done the right thing. His father would be proud. Maya would be proud when he told her tomorrow. But when the elevator doors opened on the ground floor, Marcus's relief turned to ice-cold fear. Instead of Jim, the usual night security guard, there were 4 people waiting in the lobby. 2 NYPD officers stood with expressions of professional neutrality. Beside them stood Richard Sterling himself, the billionaire who owned the building, a man Marcus had seen only from a distance. And next to him, his daughter Victoria Sterling, a young woman Marcus had glimpsed a few times but never spoken to. Richard Sterling's face was a mask of fury as he pointed directly at Marcus. "That's him," Sterling declared with absolute certainty. "That's the thief." Marcus froze, confusion washing over him like a wave. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "I don't understand. My daughter left her portfolio in the conference room," Sterling interrupted coldly, "and now you're trying to steal it. We've been watching you on the security cameras, standing over $50,000 in cash. Officers, arrest this man." "No, sir, you don't understand." Marcus's voice rose with panic, desperation making his words come faster. "I found a portfolio and immediately called security. I was bringing it down exactly like I was supposed to. I reported it." "Save it for the police," Sterling interrupted with icy dismissal. "Officers, that's the evidence right there in his cart. This man was caught on camera alone with $50,000 in cash, and now he's trying to leave the building with it." One of the police officers stepped forward, his voice not unkind but absolutely firm. "Sir, I'm going to need you to put your hands behind your back." "Wait, please," Marcus begged, his voice cracking with emotion. "This is a mistake. I called security myself. Check the logs. I'm not a thief. Please. We'll sort it all out at the station," the officer replied. "Hand behind your back, please." Marcus felt the cold metal of handcuffs click around his wrists, and the world seemed to tilt and spin. This couldn't be happening. He had done the right thing. He had done exactly what he was supposed to do. He had chosen integrity over $50,000 that could have changed his life. And here he was being arrested in front of his employer, about to be charged with theft, about to lose both his jobs, about to lose everything. About to lose Maya. As the cold metal of the handcuffs bit into his wrists, Marcus thought of only one thing. Maya, his 13-year-old daughter, home alone in their small apartment, waiting for him to come home. What would happen to her if he went to jail? Who would take care of her? Where would she go? The thought of losing her, of failing her, was worse than any false accusation, worse than any humiliation. Marcus looked at Richard Sterling with desperate, pleading eyes. "My daughter," he said, his voice breaking completely. "I have a 13-year-old daughter at home alone. Please, I didn't steal anything. I reported finding the money. I did everything right. Please, my daughter needs me." "You should have thought about your daughter," Sterling replied with cold contempt, "before you decided to become a thief." The words hit Marcus like physical blows. He wasn't a thief. He had never stolen anything in his life. He had just proven his integrity by reporting $50,000 he desperately needed. And now he was being treated like a criminal, judged and condemned by a billionaire who had never known poverty, never had to choose between electricity and food, never understood what it meant to sacrifice everything for the person you love. Marcus felt something break inside him. Not his integrity, which remained intact, but his hope. His belief that doing the right thing mattered. His faith that the world was fair. But someone was watching. Someone was paying attention. Victoria Sterling, 26 years old, Stanford law graduate, had been standing silently throughout the confrontation. Unlike her father, who wore fury like a weapon, Victoria's face showed something else entirely. Thought, consideration, doubt. While her father had seen 30 seconds of security footage and jumped to conclusions, Victoria had done something radical. She had watched more. She had looked deeper. She had questioned her first assumption. "Dad, wait," Victoria said quietly, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "Victoria, there's nothing to wait for," Richard Sterling snapped impatiently. "We caught him red-handed. We caught him bringing the portfolio to security," Victoria interrupted, her voice calm but absolutely firm. Exactly like he said he would. Dad, I watched the whole security footage, not just the moment you saw. I watched from when he first entered the conference room until he reached the elevator. Richard Sterling paused, irritation flashing across his powerful face. What are you talking about? Victoria pulled out her phone, turning the screen toward her father, the police officers, and Marcus. On it played the security footage from the conference room, time-stamped and undeniable. Look, she said simply. Just look. Everyone leaned in to see the small screen. The black and white footage showed Marcus entering the conference room at 3:14 a.m., cleaning and doing his job. At 3:22 a.m., he noticed the portfolio on the table. As they watched, the portfolio fell open, revealing the cash. Marcus's body went completely still. For exactly 47 seconds, Victoria had timed it precisely. Marcus stood looking at the money. No one in that lobby, watching that footage, could deny what those 47 seconds represented. Temptation, need, desperation, the weight of 7 years of 18-hour days, of poverty, of sacrifice. 47 seconds of internal battle. And then, at 3:23 a.m., Marcus closed the portfolio, pulled out his radio, and made the call to security. The timestamp was irrefutable. He called it in immediately, Victoria said, looking directly at her father. Within 1 minute of discovering it. Then he secured it properly in his cart and brought it straight to security, just like he told us. Just like he was trained to do. Just like an honest man would do. Victoria pulled up something else on her phone, Marcus's employment records. Dad, he's worked here for 7 years. Not a single incident. Not one complaint. Perfect attendance, except for 3 days last year when his daughter had pneumonia. Multiple commendations from supervisors for going above and beyond. 2 months ago, he found a laptop worth $3,000 and returned it immediately. Last year, he found someone's wallet with $800 and all their credit cards. He returned it the same day. Victoria's voice grew stronger, more passionate. This man has a documented history of being honest, even when it would be easy not to be. He found $50,000, more money than he makes in a year, and he reported it within 60 seconds. The only reason we're here is because you saw 30 seconds of footage and jumped to conclusions. The older of the two police officers looked at Richard Sterling with a question that demanded an answer. Mr. Sterling, is the money still all there? Has anything been taken? Richard opened the portfolio and counted quickly, his movements sharp and defensive. When he looked up, his face had shifted, embarrassment warring with stubbornness. It's all here, every dollar. And did he in fact call in to report finding it? The officer pressed. The security guard, who had been standing quietly nearby, cleared his throat. Yes, officer. I have the log call from Marcus at 3:23 a.m., reporting the find and saying he was bringing it down. That's standard protocol, and he followed it exactly. Heavy silence filled the lobby. Marcus stood with his hands still cuffed behind his back, barely breathing, afraid of hope. The officer looked at Richard Sterling expectantly, waiting for the only words that mattered now. Sir, Richard Sterling's face showed a man caught between his ego and reality. I suppose there may have been a misunderstanding, he said stiffly. Dad, there was no misunderstanding, Victoria said, and now her voice carried an edge of steel that made even her powerful father pause. You saw a black janitor standing over money and immediately assumed he was stealing. You didn't wait to see what he would do next. You didn't check the security logs. You didn't even consider that he might be honest. You called the police on a man who was doing exactly what he was supposed to do. You let your prejudice make the decision before the facts ever had a chance. Victoria, Richard's voice carried a warning, but his daughter cut him off. No, Dad, we need to be absolutely clear about what happened here. She turned to the police officers with absolute authority. Officers, my father made a mistake. This man did nothing wrong whatsoever. We're not pressing any charges because there's literally nothing to charge him with. Please remove the handcuffs immediately. The officers looked at Richard Sterling, who gave a stiff, reluctant nod, his pride clearly wounded, but his position indefensible. One officer moved behind Marcus and unlocked the cuffs. As the cold metal came off his wrists, Marcus's knees nearly buckled with relief, so intense it was almost painful. For several seconds, he just stood there, rubbing his wrists where the cuffs had bitten into his skin, trying to process what had just happened. Minutes ago, he had been facing arrest, jail time, losing his jobs, losing custody of Maya. Now he was free. Free because someone had bothered to look beyond the surface. Free because someone had challenged prejudice with facts. Free because Victoria Sterling had chosen to see him as a human being rather than a stereotype. "I'm very sorry for the confusion, Mr. Williams," the older officer said kindly. "You're free to go. We'll need a brief statement for our report, but it's clear no crime was committed here." "By him," Victoria added pointedly, her eyes still on her father. "No crime was committed by Mr. Williams." After the police left and the lobby fell quiet again, Victoria approached Marcus, who was still standing by his cleaning cart, looking shaken and utterly exhausted. "Mr. Williams," Victoria said, her voice carrying genuine remorse, "I'm so deeply sorry. What happened here tonight was wrong. Profoundly wrong. You did your job with complete integrity, and you were treated like a criminal. That's unacceptable, and I want you to know that I understand that." Marcus just nodded, not trusting himself to speak without his voice breaking, without the tears he'd been holding back finally falling. "How old is your daughter?" Victoria asked gently, and the unexpected personal question made Marcus look up, surprised. 13. "Her name's Maya. Is she home alone right now?" Marcus nodded, ashamed somehow of this reality, even though it wasn't his fault, even though he'd had no choice. "Yes, ma'am. She's used to it. I work nights here and days at a warehouse across town. She's very responsible for her age." Victoria's expression flickered with something Marcus couldn't quite read. Sadness, anger, determination, all mixed together. She exchanged a long look with her father, who stood several feet away, his body language defensive and uncomfortable. "Dad, we need to talk. In private. Right now." Richard Sterling looked like he wanted to argue, but something in his daughter's expression, something hard and uncompromising, stopped him. He nodded curtly. "Marcus," he said, and it was the first time he'd used Marcus's first name, "take the rest of the night off. Paid. Go home to your daughter." It wasn't an apology, but Marcus was too emotionally and physically drained to care. He just wanted to go home, hug Maya, and try to forget this nightmare had ever happened. He nodded and turned toward the service exit. "Mr. Williams," Victoria called after him. Marcus stopped and looked back. "What time do you usually finish your shift?" 6 a.m., ma'am." "And then you go directly to your warehouse job?" "Yes, ma'am. 8 to 4. Victoria's jaw tightened, and her eyes held a determination that Marcus would later come to recognize and be grateful for. "Get some sleep, Mr. Williams. I'll be in touch." Marcus didn't know what that meant, but he was too tired to ask. He just wanted to go home. When Marcus entered their small one-bedroom apartment at 4:30 a.m., he found Maya exactly where he'd known she would be. Asleep on the couch, her homework spread out on the coffee table, the TV on with the volume low. Despite his constant reminders that she needed proper sleep, Maya always waited up for him, unable to rest until she knew he was safely home. The apartment was tiny, just one bedroom that Maya used while Marcus slept on the couch, a small kitchen where they made simple meals together, a bathroom where the shower never got quite hot enough. But it was clean, organized, and filled with love. Family photos covered the walls. Marcus and Maya at her elementary school graduation, Maya's artwork from over the years, a wedding photo of Marcus and Rachel for 14 years ago. Marcus gently lifted his daughter, and she stirred, her eyes opening with immediate concern. "Dad, you're home early. Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, baby," Marcus lied, carrying her toward the bedroom. "Just finished early tonight. Go back to sleep." But Maya was more awake now, her 13-year-old intuition sensing something in her father's voice, in the tension of his body. "Did something happen?" she asked, sitting up in the bed as Marcus set her down. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, and suddenly the weight of the entire night crashed down on him like a physical force. He found himself telling Maya everything. Finding the money, being tempted for those 47 seconds, calling security, being accused, being handcuffed, Victoria Sterling's intervention. As he spoke, tears began running down his face. Tears of exhaustion, relief, residual fear, and overwhelming gratitude that he was here with his daughter and not in a jail cell. When he finished, Maya was holding his hand tightly, tears in her own eyes. "Dad, you did the right thing," Maya said fiercely, her voice carrying a strength that belied her 13 years. "You always do the right thing. I'm so proud of you." "I know, baby," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "But for a minute there, standing over all that money, I thought about how much easier our lives could be. I thought about all the things I can't give you. And I hate that I even thought about taking it, even for a second." Maya squeezed his hand tighter. "But you didn't take it, Dad. That's what matters. That's what makes you who you are." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice held a wisdom far beyond her years. "Grandpa always said that integrity is doing the right thing even when no one's watching, even when it's hard, even when it costs you something. You had that moment tonight, Dad. You had $50,000 right there, and you could have taken it, and maybe no one would have known. But you didn't. You chose to be honest, even when it was the hardest choice in the world. That's integrity. That's character. That's who you are." Marcus pulled his daughter into a tight hug, grateful beyond words for this remarkable young woman she was becoming. Mature, compassionate, wise, strong. "When did you get so smart?" he asked, his voice muffled against her hair. "I learned from the best," Maya replied, hugging him back fiercely. "Now go to sleep, Dad. You have your warehouse shift in a few hours." "Actually," Marcus said, pulling back to look at her, "I think I'm going to call in sick. I haven't used a sick day in 2 years. I need to sleep and want to be here when you get home from school." Maya's face lit up with joy. "Really? You're actually going to rest? Really? Now you sleep. You have school in 3 hours." But neither of them could sleep. Instead, they went to the kitchen and made pancakes together, talking about Maya's upcoming algebra test, laughing at Marcus's terrible attempts at flipping pancakes, watching the sunrise through their small apartment window. It was one of those rare, precious mornings when financial stress and exhaustion faded into the background, and they simply enjoyed being together, father and daughter, a family of 2, facing the world as a team. That evening, after Marcus had slept from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., the longest he'd slept in years, and after Maya had come home from school, there was an unexpected knock on their apartment door. Marcus opened it to find Victoria Sterling standing in the hallway, dressed in an elegant business suit that probably cost more than 3 months of Marcus's rent. She looked completely out of place in their run-down building with its peeling paint and worn carpet, but she seemed entirely unbothered by the surroundings. "Ms. Sterling," Marcus said, shocked and confused. "What are you doing here? How did you even—" "May I come in, Mr. Williams?" Victoria asked politely. "I'd like to talk to you and your daughter, if that's okay." Marcus hesitated. This felt surreal, like 2 different worlds colliding, but he stepped aside and let her in. Maya appeared from the bedroom, her eyes going wide at seeing the elegantly dressed woman in their tiny apartment. "Maya, this is Victoria Sterling. She's the woman I told you about from last night. The one who helped me. The one who proved you didn't do anything wrong." Maya asked, then turned to Victoria with the directness of youth. "Thank you. My dad would never steal anything. He's the most honest person in the world." Victoria smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her face. "I know he is. That's actually why I'm here." They sat down at the small kitchen table, Marcus and Maya on one side, Victoria on the other. Victoria placed a leather folder on the table, and Marcus felt a surge of anxiety. Was this about pressing charges after all? Had Richard Sterling changed his mind? Victoria seemed to sense his fear. "Don't worry, Mr. Williams. I'm not here about last night. Well, not in the way you're thinking. I'm here because of what I discovered after last night." Victoria opened a folder, revealing several documents. "Mr. Williams, I did extensive research after last night. I hope you don't mind. I used resources available to me to understand your situation better. I found out that you work 2 jobs, averaging 18 hours a day, 6 days a week. You've been maintaining this schedule for 7 years. Your daughter maintains a 4.0 GPA despite the extraordinary challenges of your situation. You've never been late on rent, though I saw from your landlord's records that you've sometimes had to pay in installments. You donate blood plasma every 2 months because they pay $20. Sterling, Marcus interrupted, deeply uncomfortable with where this was going. Why are you telling me things I already know? Victoria met his eyes directly. Because I needed you to know that I know. I needed you to understand that I see you, really see you, not as just a janitor or just another struggling single parent, but as an extraordinary person doing the impossible every single day. I see your sacrifice. I see your integrity. I see your strength. And after what happened last night, I couldn't just walk away and pretend it didn't matter. She pulled out a check and placed it on the table. Marcus looked down and felt the world stop. The check was made out to him for $50,000, exactly the amount that had been in the portfolio. This is a formal apology from Sterling Tower, Victoria said clearly, for falsely accusing you, for having you handcuffed, for treating you as a criminal when you're being honest. My father signed this check this morning. It took considerable convincing, but he understands that what happened was legally actionable as false arrest and defamation. This is compensation, not charity. Marcus stared at the check, his hands beginning to shake uncontrollably. $50,000. The exact amount he'd been tempted by, the amount he'd walked away from, the amount that had nearly destroyed his life. I can't accept this, Marcus said immediately, even as his voice trembled with emotion. Sterling, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but this is too much. I was just doing my job. You can, and you will accept it, Victoria said firmly, her voice leaving no room for argument. Mr. Williams, my father owns a company worth $3 billion. $50,000 is a rounding error in his quarterly budget. But I know it's everything to you. You earned this money through 7 years of honest, dedicated work, and by showing integrity in a moment when you easily could have chosen otherwise. This isn't charity, Marcus. This is justice. This is what should have been yours all along if the world was fair. Maya was staring at the check with wide eyes full of wonder and hope. Dad, that's... Her voice trailed off as she tried to comprehend the magnitude. Too much, Marcus insisted, though his conviction was wavering as he looked at his daughter's face. It's what you need, Victoria corrected. It's what Maya deserves. And it's what my father owes you for the indignity and injustice of last night. She pulled out another document. But there's more, Mr. Williams. I'm not just here to deliver a check. I'm here to offer you a position. Victoria placed an official document on the table next to the check. We have an opening for a building operations manager at Sterling Tower. It's a day shift position, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. No more night shifts. No more warehouse work. The salary is $85,000 per year, plus full health insurance, dental, vision, and education assistance for dependent children. Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't process what he was hearing. $85,000. Day shift. Benefits. No more 18-hour days. No more sleeping 4 hours a night. No more choosing between bills. No more. I don't have the qualifications for something like that. Marcus finally managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm a janitor. I have a high school diploma and 7 years of cleaning experience. That's not enough for a management position. You have 7 years of experience maintaining one of Manhattan's premier office buildings, Victoria countered, her tone brooking no argument. You know that building better than anyone, every system, every problem area, every maintenance need. You've identified issues before they became emergencies. You've trained new janitorial staff. You're reliable, honest, meticulous, and hardworking. Those are precisely the qualifications that matter, Mr. Williams. I've seen your performance reviews. Your supervisors have consistently noted that you go above and beyond, that you take initiative, that you care about your work. Those qualities make an excellent manager. Maya grabbed her father's hand, squeezing it tightly, her eyes pleading with him to say yes. Victoria leaned forward, her voice becoming even more earnest. Marcus, may I be completely honest with you? He nodded, still too stunned to form words. What happened last night exposed something ugly in how my father views the people who work for him. He saw your skin color and your position, and he jumped to the worst possible conclusion. He didn't see 7 years of perfect service. He didn't see character. He didn't see a human being. He saw his own prejudices reflected back at him. That's unacceptable, and it needs to be addressed in ways beyond just an apology check. Marcus found his voice, though it came out rough with emotion. Why are you doing this, Miss Sterling? Really, why? You don't know me. You don't know me anything. Why go to all this trouble? Victoria was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. Last night, I watched security footage of you standing over $50,000 for 47 seconds. I watched you wrestle with what I can only imagine was overwhelming temptation. And I watched you make the harder choice, the right choice. Do you know what I saw in those 47 seconds, Marcus? He shook his head, unable to speak. I saw character, real character. Not the easy kind that costs nothing, but the hard kind that costs everything. You had every reason to take that money. Poverty, a sick daughter last year, mounting bills, exhaustion. You could have justified it 100 different ways. But you didn't. And then, after making that impossible choice, after doing the absolute right thing, you were punished for it. You were accused, humiliated, handcuffed like a criminal in front of your employer. Victoria's voice grew stronger, more passionate. I can't fix the world, Mr. Williams. I can't eliminate poverty or prejudice or injustice. But I can fix this. I can make sure that your integrity is rewarded instead of punished. I can make sure that you don't have to work yourself to death anymore. I can make sure Maya has a parent who's present in her life. I can make sure that doing the right thing leads to the right outcome, at least this once. She paused, then added more quietly. And I can try to address my father's prejudices by forcing him to see you not as a janitor, but as a qualified, valuable professional. By putting you in a position of authority. By making him and everyone else in that building recognize your worth. Marcus felt tears running down his face. Tears of gratitude, relief, and something else he couldn't quite name. Hope, maybe. The radical, dangerous hope that life might actually get better. After Victoria left, placing all the documents carefully on the table, the check, the job offer, the benefits information, Marcus and Maya sat in stunned silence. The small kitchen, which had witnessed so many difficult conversations about unpaid bills and stretched budgets, now held the promise of an entirely different future. Dad, Maya whispered, reaching for the check with trembling fingers as if it might disappear if touched. Is this real? Is this actually happening? Marcus picked up the check, feeling the weight of the paper, seeing his name written there in formal script. Marcus Williams. $50,000. His vision blurred with tears. I think so, baby. I think it's really real. Maya threw her arms around him, and they both cried, not the quiet, suppressed tears of sorrow they'd shed too many times before, but loud, gasping sobs of relief and joy and overwhelming gratitude. They cried for the 7 years of struggle that were finally ending. They cried for the nights Marcus had lain awake worrying about how to pay bills. They cried for every sacrifice, every missed meal, every moment of exhaustion. And they cried for the future that was suddenly, impossibly, wonderfully within reach. You did this, Dad, Maya said when she could finally speak. You made this happen by being who you are, by being honest, even when it was the hardest thing in the world. By choosing what was right over what was easy. Marcus held his daughter tightly, this remarkable young woman who had supported him through everything, who had never complained, who had grown up too fast because life demanded it. We did this together, Maya. Every choice I made for you. Every sacrifice was worth it because of you. You're my purpose. You're my strength. You're everything. That night, they didn't sleep. Instead, they sat at the kitchen table and planned. With his first paycheck, what would they do? Move to a better apartment? Buy Maya new clothes? Start a real college fund? The possibilities, once so limited, now seemed endless. The next morning, Marcus wore his only suit, the one he'd bought at Goodwill for his father's funeral 7 years ago, and walked in his Sterling Tower not through the service entrance as he had for 7 years, but through the main lobby as a visitor. He was there for meetings with Victoria and the HR department, to sign papers to officially accept the position of building operations manager. His first day in his new role was surreal. The men and women who had been his co-workers, his fellow janitors, maintenance workers, security guards, now technically reported to him. But instead of resentment, Marcus found genuine happiness from them. They congratulated him warmly, excited to see one of their own move up, proof that hard work and integrity could be rewarded. "You earned this, Marcus," Jim, the security guard, said, shaking his hand firmly. "We all knew you were too good for the night shift, man. About time someone recognized it." Marcus's first act as manager was to review the salaries and working conditions of the janitorial staff. What he found troubled him: wages that hadn't increased in 5 years, no sick leave, minimal benefits. He drafted a proposal to increase all janitorial salaries by 15% and implement basic benefits. He submitted it to Victoria, expecting pushback, negotiations, delays. She approved it the same day. "This is exactly why I hired you," Victoria told him. "Because you understand these jobs from the inside. Because you value the people who do them. Because you'll fight for fair treatment. That's the kind of manager we need." With his first paycheck, more money than Marcus had ever seen in 2 weeks of work, he did something he'd been dreaming about for years. He took Maya shopping for clothes. Not at thrift stores where they had to check every price tag, but at regular stores where Maya could choose things she actually liked. Marcus stood in the clothing store, watching Maya's face as she held up a beautiful winter coat. Not too expensive, not designer, but new and warm and exactly her size. Her eyes filled with tears of joy, and she looked at her father with an expression that asked, "Really? I can have this?" "You can have it, baby," Marcus said, his own voice thick with emotion. "You can have whatever you need. We don't have to choose anymore." They bought the coat and new shoes that actually fit instead of being a size too big to grow into. And books, real books from a bookstore, not borrowed from the library. Marcus enrolled Maya in the school's Washington, D.C. field trip, paying the full amount up front without hesitation. He paid every overdue bill: electricity, water, credit card, medical bills for Maya's pneumonia last year. He opened a real savings account for the first time in his adult life. But the most important change wasn't financial, it was time. For the first time since Rachel died, Marcus was home when Maya got home from school. He could help with homework at the kitchen table instead of sleeping through her afternoon. He could make dinner together with her instead of leaving frozen meals with reheating instructions. He could attend her school events instead of working through them. He could be present in her life instead of just surviving it. One afternoon, 2 weeks into his new job, Marcus was working in his office with his name on the door, when Maya came by after school. She'd taken the subway alone, something she'd done countless times before, but now she came to see her father at work instead of going home to an empty apartment. "Dad, can I do my homework here?" she asked. "Of course, baby. Always." As Maya settled at a table in his office, spreading out her textbooks, Marcus felt a wave of emotion so intense it nearly overwhelmed him. This was what normal families did. This was what he'd been unable to give Maya for 7 years. This simple, beautiful normalcy. 3 months into his new position, Marcus received a call that Victoria Sterling wanted to see him. He went up to the executive floor, where he used to clean late at night, where he'd once been invisible, and knocked on her office door as an equal. "Marcus, come in," Victoria said, smiling warmly. "Please sit down. I want to talk to you about something important." Marcus sat in one of the leather chairs across from her massive desk, still sometimes struggling to believe this was his life now. "How are you settling into the role?" Victoria asked. "It's been wonderful," Marcus said honestly. "Better than I ever imagined." "I can't thank you enough, Victoria. You changed our lives." "You changed your own life by being a person of integrity," Victoria corrected gently. "I just removed some obstacles. But that's not why I asked you here. I want to talk about Maya." Marcus felt a flutter of concern. "Is something wrong?" "The opposite," Victoria assured him quickly. "Marcus, I'm starting a new initiative at Sterling Tower, a comprehensive scholarship program for children of our employees. Full tuition, room and board, books, expenses, everything covered for any accredited university in the country. I want Maya to be one of our first recipients." Marcus felt tears spring to his eyes. Victoria, I don't. I can't. You can, and you will, Victoria said firmly. Marcus, Maya is brilliant. Her teachers rave about her. Her GPA is perfect despite the extraordinary circumstances she's faced. She dreams of becoming a civil engineer, of building affordable housing for families like yours used to be. She deserves every opportunity, and Sterling Tower wants to invest in her future. Marcus couldn't hold back his tears anymore. They fell freely as he processed what Victoria was offering. College. Full ride. Maya wouldn't have to take out crushing loans. Wouldn't have to work 3 jobs like he had. Could focus on her studies, on building the future she dreamed about. She's everything to me, Marcus said, his voice breaking. She's so much smarter than I ever was. She learned from you, Victoria said gently. She learned integrity, resilience, determination, love. Those things matter more than any subject taught in school. Maya is who she is because of you, Marcus. And now we get to help her become who she's meant to be. That evening, when Marcus came home from work, home at a reasonable hour, not after midnight, he found Maya studying at the kitchen table they'd been able to replace with his first paycheck. He sat down across from her, his heart so full he could barely speak. Maya, I need to tell you something, he said. She looked up from her textbook, immediately sensing something important. What is it, Dad? Is everything okay? Better than okay, Marcus said, taking her hands in his. Victoria Sterling started a scholarship program. Full ride, tuition, room, board, books, everything, to any university you want. And she wants you to be one of the first recipients. Maya stared at him, not comprehending at first. Then understanding dawned, and tears began streaming down her face. I can go to college, she whispered. Like really go? Not just community college, but anywhere. Anywhere you want, baby. MIT, Stanford, Columbia, wherever you get in, Sterling Tower will pay for all of it. Maya burst into tears, loud, gasping sobs of joy and disbelief. She'd been carrying the weight of figuring out college finances for years, doing the math in her head, knowing that her dreams might be impossible. And now, suddenly, impossibly, the doors were opening. This is because of you, Dad, Maya said through her tears. Because you did the right thing. Because you're you. Because you show them who you really are. No, sweetheart, Marcus said, crying too. This is because you're brilliant and hardworking and remarkable. This is because you never gave up, never complained, supported me through everything. This is because you're you, Maya. Everything I did for you. But you earned this with your own merit, your own excellence. They held each other, father and daughter, crying together in their small kitchen that had witnessed so much struggle and was now witnessing triumph. Everything had changed. Everything was possible now. That night, after Maya had gone to bed, Marcus stood at the window of their apartment, still small, but they decided to stay for now, save money for Maya's future, looking out at the city lights. He held his phone, staring at a photo he kept there, his father in his janitor's uniform, smiling proudly at Marcus's high school graduation. Your integrity is the only thing in this world that's truly yours, his father had said. Once you sell it, you can never buy it back. Marcus had passed that lesson down to Maya, and she had believed in it even when it would have been easier not to. She had believed in him even when he'd been handcuffed and accused. She had known, without doubt, that her father was a good man. You were right, Dad, Marcus whispered to the photo. You were right about everything. Integrity matters. Doing the right thing matters. Even when it costs you everything, even when you're standing there alone with no one watching, it matters. He thought about that night. Was it really only 3 months ago, when he'd stood over $50,000, tempted beyond belief, wrestling with desperation and principle? 47 seconds that had felt like an eternity. And he thought about the choice he'd made. If he had taken that money, he would have had $50,000, yes. But he would have lost everything that mattered. He would have lost his integrity, his self-respect, his ability to look Maya in the eyes. He would have lost the person he was, the person his father had raised him to be. Instead, by choosing the harder path, by staying true to himself even when it seemed like the worst possible decision, he had gained everything. Not immediately, not magically, but eventually, inevitably, the right choice had led to the right outcome. Victoria Sterling had seen him, truly seen him, not because he was perfect, but because he was honest. And she had used her power not to crush, but to lift up. Sometimes, Marcus thought, the world does pay attention. Sometimes integrity is rewarded. Sometimes doing the right thing, even when it costs you everything, gives you everything you never knew you needed. 5 years later, Marcus stood in the crowd at Columbia University, watching Maya walk across the stage to receive her diploma with honors in civil engineering. Beside him stood Victoria Sterling, who had become not just Maya's mentor, but a cherished friend to their small family, attending school events and family dinners, becoming part of their lives in ways none of them could have predicted. "She's going to change the world," Victoria said, watching Maya accept her diploma, her smile visible even from their distance. "She already changed mine," Marcus replied, his voice thick with emotion. He thought about the journey that had brought them here, from that desperate night when he'd been handcuffed like a criminal, through the miraculous intervention that had changed everything, to this moment of triumph and vindication. Maya had thrived at Columbia. She'd made the dean's list every semester, won awards for her design projects, secured internships at top engineering firms. And now, she had multiple job offers, each one providing a salary that would ensure she'd never know the poverty Marcus had fought against for so many years. After the ceremony, as Maya posed for photos in her cap and gown, beaming with pride and joy and hope, she pulled Marcus and Victoria together. "Come on, you two. This picture is for all of us. None of this happens without either of you." As the camera flashed, Marcus thought about that night 7 years ago, standing over $50,000, making a choice that could have gone either way. He'd chosen integrity over survival. And in return, the universe, with Victoria Sterling as its instrument, had given him everything. Not immediately, not easily, but eventually, inevitably, the right thing had led to the best thing. Maya pulled her father aside after the photos, her face serious despite the celebration around them. "Dad, I need to tell you something. I got a job offer. I start next month at Morrison Engineering. They do affordable housing developments. The salary it's really good. Really, really good. Enough that you could retire if you wanted." Marcus laughed, a sound of pure joy. "Retire? Baby, I'm only 49 years old. I've got plenty of years left in me." "I know, but you could if you wanted," Maya insisted. "You've worked so hard for so long, sacrificed so much. You could finally rest, Dad. You've earned it." Marcus looked at his daughter, this brilliant, compassionate young woman who still thought of him first, who wanted to take care of him the way he'd taken care of her. His heart swelled with love, so intense it was almost painful. "Sweetheart, I appreciate that more than you can possibly know. But I like my job. I like managing the building, helping the staff, making sure everything runs smoothly. It's not about survival anymore. It's about doing work that matters, being part of something good. I'm happy, Maya. For the first time in my adult life, I'm actually happy." Victoria, who had walked over to join them, added with a smile, "Plus, if Marcus retired, I'd have to find someone to replace him, and that would be nearly impossible. Your father has become one of our most valuable employees. He's transformed the culture of our entire operations department." Maya laughed, tears of joy running down her face. "I'm so proud of you, Dad. Of everything you did, everything you sacrificed, everything you taught me. You showed me what it means to be strong, to be honest, to never give up even when things seem impossible. You're my hero. You did the same for me," Marcus said, pulling his daughter into a tight embrace. "Every day, you motivated me to keep going. Every A you earned, every time you made me proud, which was constantly. You gave me a reason to choose integrity, even when it was hard. We did this together, Maya. All of it." Maya would go on to become exactly what she dreamed of, a successful civil engineer specializing in affordable housing. She used her education and her father's example to help build homes for families like theirs had been. Families where parents worked multiple jobs, families struggling to survive, families where integrity was sometimes the only thing they could afford. She never forgot where she came from. She never forgot the nights her father worked 18 hours while she did homework alone. She never forgot the feeling of being poor in a rich world, invisible in plain sight. And she dedicated her career to making sure other families had better options, safer homes, pathways out of poverty. Her first major project was a mixed-income housing development in the Bronx. Affordable apartments with quality construction, community spaces, playgrounds, tutoring centers. At the groundbreaking ceremony, Maya gave a speech about why this work mattered to her. She told the story of her father, the janitor who had been handcuffed for being honest, and how one person's choice to look deeper, to challenge prejudice, to see humanity in unexpected places had changed everything. My father taught me that integrity is choosing what's right over what's easy, Maya said, her voice carrying across the crowd. Victoria Sterling taught me that power should be used to lift people up, not keep them down. And this community taught me that everyone deserves a safe, dignified place to call home. This project is for all the Marcus Williams out there, the people who work invisible jobs, who sacrifice everything for their families, who deserve better than the world usually gives them. In the crowd, Marcus stood watching his daughter, tears streaming down his face, overwhelmed with pride. She had taken the lessons he'd taught her and multiplied them 1,000-fold. Marcus would continue working at Sterling Tower until he retired at 65, beloved by staff and tenants alike for his fairness, compassion, and unwavering integrity. He never stopped visiting the night janitors during their shifts, never stopped seeing them as colleagues and friends rather than invisible workers. He knew their names, their families, their struggles, because he had been them, and he never forgot it. Marcus established a mentorship program, helping other parents in situations like his had been, showing them that there was hope, that change was possible, that integrity and hard work could be rewarded. He helped dozens of employees move up in the company, advocating for them, fighting for fair wages and better conditions, being the leader he wished he'd had when he was pushing that cleaning cart at 3 a.m. One young janitor, a single mother named Carmen with 2 kids, he personally mentored for 3 years. When she expressed interest in property management, Marcus paid for her certification courses out of his own pocket and recommended her for a supervisor position. The day she got promoted, she cried in his office and said, "You're changing my life, Mr. Williams." "No," Marcus told her gently. "You're changing your own life with hard work and determination. I'm just removing a few obstacles, the way someone once did for me. Now you pay it forward. When you're in a position to help someone else, you do it. That's how we change the world. One person, one opportunity, one act of fairness at a time." And Carmen did exactly that, as did the others Marcus helped. His legacy wasn't just in the buildings he managed or the policies he improved. His legacy was in the lives he touched, the opportunities he created, the belief he instilled that people from difficult circumstances could rise through merit and integrity. Years later, long after Marcus had retired, he sat on a bench in Central Park, watching the same city that had once seemed so hostile, so unforgiving. He held a photograph, Maya at her graduation from Columbia, beaming with pride and possibility. Beside it, another photo, Maya at the groundbreaking of her 10th affordable housing project, receiving an award for innovation in sustainable urban development. She had indeed changed the world. But more importantly, she had stayed true to herself, carrying forward the lessons of integrity and compassion that Marcus and Victoria had taught her. Marcus thought about that night. How many years ago now? 10, 11, when he'd stood in that conference room staring at $50,000, facing the hardest choice of his life. He thought about the 47 seconds that had felt like an eternity, when every fiber of his being had screamed at him to take the money, to solve his problems, to give Maya what she deserved. And he thought about the choice he'd made, to close the portfolio, to call security, to choose integrity over survival. If he could go back and do it again, knowing everything that would follow, the accusation, the handcuffs,